Look great, bud. Welcome.
Thank you. Good to
back.
see you. Good to see you guys.
Yeah.
Before he was The Rock, before the fame, the muscles, and the billion-dollar movies, Dwayne Johnson was just a young man sitting alone in a car, staring at an eviction notice, with only $7 left to his name. He had dreamed of NFL glory, but an injury crushed it all. His football career was over before it began. In that silence, he faced the question that would define his life. What do you do when your greatest dream dies? Most people would have given up, but not Dwayne. From that rock bottom, he built himself, brick by brick, lift by lift, heartbreak by heartbreak, into one of the most unstoppable forces in entertainment history. From wrestling arenas filled with chanting fans to commanding Hollywood's biggest blockbusters, he didn't just rise. He redefined what it means to rise. But behind the smiles, the catchphrases, and the success lies a story of pain, discipline, and redemption. A story not of a superstar, but of a man who refused to quit. This is the real story of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, the man who turned failure into foundation. Dwayne Douglas Johnson was born on May 2, 1972, in Hayward, California. But his story began long before that, in the proud lineage of Samoan warriors and wrestling pioneers. His father, Rocky Johnson, was one of the first black wrestling champions in America. His grandfather, Peter Maivia, a legendary Samoan wrestler, was known as the High Chief, a man whose presence filled entire arenas. To the outside world, the Johnson family looked larger than life, but behind the show lights, their reality was far from glamorous. Dwayne grew up moving constantly. California, New Zealand, Hawaii, Pennsylvania, chasing his father's unstable wrestling career. Every few months they'd pack up and start again. He remembers nights in Hawaii when his mother, Atta, cried quietly after the landlord kicked them out. He was just 14, watching his parents argue about money, learning too soon that fame didn't guarantee peace. School wasn't easy either. Dwayne was a giant among kids, intimidating, often misunderstood. By 16, he'd already been arrested several times for fighting and theft. "We were struggling," he later said. "And when you struggle, you do stupid things to survive." But through the chaos, there was always love. His mother's resilience and his father's discipline became the steel that shaped his soul. From his Samoan heritage, he inherited pride and loyalty. From his father, the understanding that greatness demands pain. Standing in the mirror as a boy, he once promised himself he would break the cycle. That one day, he wouldn't just survive. He would rise. He didn't know how. He didn't know when. But deep down, Dwayne Johnson had already made his first vow. The one that would one day turn struggle into legend. By the time Dwayne reached college, he saw football as his way out, his ticket to a better life. At the University of Miami, he became a promising defensive tackle, built like a mountain and fueled by raw determination. He dreamed of the NFL, the crowds, the glory, the security he never had as a child. But fate had a different plan. A back injury shattered his career before it could begin. In an instant, the dream he'd built his whole life around was gone. After graduation, Dwayne returned home, broke, depressed, and unsure who he was without football. The once unstoppable athlete was now sleeping on a mattress in a small apartment, staring at the ceiling and questioning everything. Then came the day he hit rock bottom. After being cut from the Canadian Football League, he opened his wallet and found only $7. That moment, sitting in silence, would later become his origin story. The birth of the mindset he calls $7. "I didn't know what I was going to do," he recalled years later, "but I knew what I wasn't going to do. I wasn't going to quit." With nowhere else to go, he turned to the one world he had tried to avoid, professional wrestling. His father trained him relentlessly, pushing him to exhaustion, reminding him that in this business, pain is a language. In 1996, Dwayne made his debut under the name Rocky Maivia, honoring both his father and grandfather. The crowd wasn't kind. They booed, calling him too clean, too fake. Every cheer was a rejection. Every smile on his face was hiding doubt. But behind that forced grin, a fire was burning, one that would soon turn failure into a phenomenon. The boos echoed through every arena. Crowds chanted, "Die, Rocky, die." Dato, a cruel rejection of the smiling young man who only wanted to honor his family's name. Most would have quit, but Dwayne didn't. He watched, listened, and learned. He realized something powerful. People didn't want perfection. They wanted authenticity, so he reinvented himself. Gone was the polite rookie Rocky Maivia. In his place rose The Rock, arrogant, electrifying, unpredictable. He strutted into the ring with a raised eyebrow, gold chains gleaming, and a microphone that could cut through steel. He mocked opponents, taunted the audience, and made every insult sound like poetry. And suddenly, the boos turned to roars. Within a year, The Rock became one of the biggest stars in WWE history, a two-time world champion, the face of an era known as the Attitude Era. He and Stone Cold Steve Austin defined what wrestling entertainment could be: raw, rebellious, larger than life. But The Rock wasn't just a wrestler. He was an entertainer, a storyteller, a brand. When he shouted, "If you smell what The Rock is cooking," and millions around the world repeated it. He had transcended the ring. Then came Hollywood. In 2001, he appeared in The Mummy Returns as the fearsome Scorpion King. A brief role, but it lit the spark. 1 year later, he headlined The Scorpion King and became the highest-paid debut actor in history. The kid who once had $7 was now commanding 7 figures. But success came with new challenges. Behind the confidence was a man trying to prove he could belong in a world that didn't yet see him as more than just a wrestler. Still, Dwayne pressed on, fueled by the same fire that once pulled him from despair. He had conquered the ring. Now he set his sights on conquering the world. For a while it seemed like nothing could stop him. But Hollywood has a way of humbling even the strongest. After his explosive debut, Dwayne signed on to a series of big-budget films: Doom, Walking Tall, The Tooth Fairy. Yet instead of glory, they brought mockery. Critics laughed. Fans were confused. Studios began to doubt his box office power. The Rock, the man who could fill arenas, suddenly couldn't fill theaters. Worse yet, behind the scenes, his personal life was unraveling. In 2007, Dwayne and his longtime partner and manager Danny Garcia announced their divorce. It was a heartbreak that rippled through both his family and his career. She had been with him since his college days, guiding his every decision. For the first time in years, he felt lost again, caught between two worlds, no longer a wrestler, not yet a respected actor. His identity was fractured, his confidence shaken. He buried himself in work, in training, in silence. He smiled for cameras, gave interviews about success. But privately, he was fighting exhaustion and loneliness. Hollywood didn't see the pain. They saw a brand, a walking mountain of muscle, not a man searching for purpose. And Dwayne began asking himself the same question he once faced as a broke football player. Who am I? When the world stops cheering, it was the question that would force him to confront his greatest rival. Not another actor, not another wrestler, but his own reflection. Because before he could rise again, he would have to break himself down one more time. When life hit him hardest, Dwayne did what he'd always done. He went back to work. Not just in the gym, but on himself. He stopped trying to fit into Hollywood's mold. He decided to build his own. Out of rejection came a new mission: to create, to inspire, to outwork everyone. In 2012, he launched $7 Productions. Named after that day, he found $7 in his pocket. The company became more than a studio. It was his declaration of independence. He would no longer wait for opportunity. He would make it. Then came his second act. He returned to the wrestling ring one last time, electrifying audiences again. But this time, it wasn't just The Rock who walked out. It was Dwayne Johnson, a man in full command of his story. Hollywood took notice. Soon he was headlining Fast and Furious, bringing new energy to a fading franchise. Then Jumanji, San Andreas, Moana. each film a reminder that charisma, when fueled by purpose, can move mountains. But what truly defined his comeback wasn't box office success. It was transformation. He became a motivator, a voice for discipline and positivity. Millions woke up to his 4 a.m. workouts, his words about gratitude and failure. "I've been broke, I've been at rock bottom," he told fans, "but I've never stopped working." The man once seen as too big for Hollywood had become its beating heart. Not through luck, but through relentless reinvention. Dwayne Johnson had turned his pain into power, his setbacks into stories, his $7 into an empire, and for the first time in his life, he wasn't chasing success anymore. He was building legacy. Today, Dwayne Johnson isn't just a movie star, he's a movement, a living embodiment of what happens when work meets purpose. His influence stretches far beyond Hollywood. He became a symbol of relentless discipline, of consistency when no one's watching. Every dawn, millions scroll through his posts, drenched in sweat, yet filled with gratitude, and think, if he can do it, maybe I can too. In a world obsessed with shortcuts, he preaches patience. In an era of ego, he practices humility. Forbes named him one of the world's highest-paid actors, but when asked what drives him, he doesn't mention money or fame. He talks about responsibility. Responsibility to his family, his fans, and to the kid who once had $7 in his pocket. He's used his platform to empower others, supporting veterans, children's hospitals, and small creators. And within the film industry, he changed what a leading man could look like. Not the perfect hero, but the earned one. Critics call him Hollywood's hardest worker. Friends call him the most grounded superstar alive. And for millions around the globe, he's simply The Rock, a name that no longer means wrestling or movies, but something greater: stability, strength, heart. He has become the kind of man his younger self once needed, and that may be his greatest legacy of all. With time, the roar of crowds faded. The movie premieres, the lights, the noise, they all became background to what truly mattered. For Dwayne Johnson, real success wasn't another box office hit. It was coming home, home to his wife, Lauren Hashian, the woman who stood beside him long before the world called him The Rock, home to his 3 daughters, Simone, Jasmine, and Tiana, who remind him that strength isn't about lifting weights, but lifting hearts. He often says that becoming a father changed everything. "I used to measure life by wins and losses," he said. "Now I measure it by smiles." Off-screen, Dwayne has become known for his kindness, small gestures that reveal the man behind the myth, visiting sick children, sending heartfelt videos to fans, quietly paying strangers' bills. He doesn't speak about balance. He lives it. Every 4 a.m. workout is followed by breakfast with his family. Every film premiere, by a moment of stillness. He's learned that peace isn't found in the spotlight. It's built in silence, in gratitude, in love. And perhaps that's what makes his story so universal. After years of fighting to be seen, Dwayne Johnson finally learned the power of simply being. Not The Rock, not the brand. Just Dwayne, a man who turned struggle into strength and fame into purpose. In the end, Dwayne Johnson's story isn't just about fame, fortune, or muscles. It's about a man who stood at rock bottom and built a mountain on top of it. From a kid with no home to the world's most recognizable star, his journey reminds us that success isn't a straight climb. It's 1,000 silent battles, the ones no one sees, when the world stops believing in you. He learned that the most powerful thing a person can do is keep going, because the truth is, every one of us has our own $7 moment, that point where we feel empty, unseen, unsure. But it's in those moments that character is forged and destiny is written. Dwayne didn't wait for miracles. He became one. Today, the boy who once questioned his worth stands as proof that no dream is too heavy to carry, if you carry it with heart, discipline, and faith. And as he often says, be the hardest worker in the room and the kindest soul in the crowd. This is not the story of The Rock. This is the story of the man who learned how to rise, again and again.